Hey guys, it's April from Getting Hooked With It. Today I have yet another historical fiction book haul. You can see a theme on my channel. I don't know what it is about historical fiction, but I just seem to reach for it so often and I just love reading them. So without further ado, let's get into them. Book that I got was completely at random. I really only got this because I saw that it was from the author of The Girl with a Pearl Earring. So this is The Last Runaway by Tracy Chevalier. And the back of the book sounded really interesting. Ohio, 1850. For a modest English Quaker stranded far from home, life is a trial, untethered from the moment she leaves England. Fleeing personal disappointment, Honor Bright is forced by family tragedy to rely on strangers in an alien, untamed landscape. Drawn into the clandestine activities of the Underground Railroad, a network helping runaway slaves escape to freedom, Honor befriends two exceptional people who embody the startling power of defiance. Eventually, she must decide if she can, too, act on what she believes in, whatever the personal cost. That sounds awesome. And so it happened. Next I picked up Lisa C's Snowflower and the Secret Fan. Sadly I have just the movie version of it. I would have preferred the normal paperback, but this was on sale for like $1, so of course I grabbed it. And this is in 19th century China, and it follows a girl named Lily who's paired up with someone called a Lao Tong, which is meant to be an old same, which is an emotional match that will last a lifetime. So these two people write messages to each other on fans, and they endure foot binding and also arranged marriages. It sounds like this is going to be an emotional read, but also very interesting. I'm interested to find out what the whole fan thing is all about. So very excited for this. I also picked up The Last Days of Dogtown by Anita Diamant. I am up for anything that Anita Diamant writes. After reading The Boston Girl, I'm totally in. I don't know too much about this besides the fact that it's composed of outcasts, but honestly, Anita Diamant can do no wrong, so I'm very happy to have this on my shelves. I also picked up HalfBlood Blues. This is a World War II fiction. It tells the story of a black man who is rounded up by the Nazis and disappears, and he is a beautiful jazz musician. He's a German citizen, but he's black, so he doesn't fall into the categories that the Nazis wanted in their citizens. It's about his life in Nazi Germany before being caught by the Nazis. It also goes like 50 years later and talks about the friends of his that survived the World War II. So this sounds really amazing. It won the Giller, so I know that I need to read this. You don't really hear a lot about how Black people survived World War II, so I'm really interested in reading this. I also picked up Orphan number 8. So this follows the story of a girl who in 1919, she's like 4 years old, and there's this doctor who's doing medical experiments on her essentially, and he's risking her life. She survives it, and then years later in like 1954, she's a nurse in a hospice wing. And that doctor who did all sorts of experiments on her is now her patient. That sounds so crazy. I don't even know what I would do in that situation. It sounds like this girl is being put in an absolute impossible situation. I'm so looking forward to this. It sounds really neat. I have read All of the Light We Cannot See and loved it, but I didn't own my own copy. And when I saw this at a library sale for $1, it absolutely went in my cart. This follows the story of Marie-Laure, who lives in Paris during World War II. She is blind. She completely relies on her father, and they have to go to her uncle's house during World War II to try and survive. It also follows a little boy named Werner who lives in Germany, and he lives in an orphanage, and he has this talent for fixing radios, and the Germans pretty much choose him for his talents. And it's about his life and then Marie-Laure's life and how they weave together. It is such a gorgeous book. I am not at all surprised that it won the Pulitzer. It's stunning. I think it took the author Anthony Doerr like 10 years to write, and you can tell the way that he tells this story is just perfection, and I needed to have this on my shelf, so I'm so happy that I do now. I also picked up Any Known Blood by Lawrence Hill. I've never read any of his work, and this is like quite a chunky book. It follows a man named Langston Kane. He looks at his family's history with slavery and their association with the Underground Railroad. It sounds like a really interesting story about 5 generations of family history, so I'm looking forward to reading this for sure as well. I also got Rites by Hannah Kent. This is something that I've already read, but I needed it on my shelf. I'd like to fill my shelves with obviously books that I haven't read yet, but also books that I've read and adored, and this is definitely one of those. It follows a woman who is the last woman in Iceland to be put to death, and she goes to live with a little family on a farm while she's waiting for her death. And it's a very slow book, but the characters are fascinating. I loved the writing. This is a gorgeous book. I don't think I've ever read any Philippa Gregory, and I don't know what it is, but I bought 2 Philippa Gregorys to read. I don't know if I'll like it, but I'm hoping I will. This one follows a girl who's a refugee in 1553, and Robert Dudley essentially takes her on as a kind of spy. So at first she's spying on Queen Mary, and then eventually she's spying on Queen Elizabeth. So I'm really interested to see what that type of life would be like. So I don't know. It could be rubbish. It could be amazing. We will see. This Philippa Gregory I'm really excited to read. It's called 3 Sisters, 3 Queens. It follows Catherine of Aragon and also Princess Margaret, who is Henry VIII's sister, and his other sister, Mary. And they all do become queens. So Catherine of Aragon obviously becomes the Queen of England, and then Scotland and France. I am so excited to read this. What a strange scenario to be in where you're all queens, and especially for the 2 sisters, like if your countries go to war with each other, I just don't even know how you would process something like that. It sounds really neat, and I think that this might be a really good winter read for me, so I picked that one up. I don't even know how I got a copy of Nina Diamant's The Boston Girl in like perfect condition for $1 at my library. I'm still so happy. I love this book. It's a growing up novel about a girl, a Jewish girl, and I think it's like 1915. And it's just this lovely growing up story. She has some horrible things happen to her and her family, and she has some wonderful things happen to her, and she's able to look at life in this positive way, and it follows her relationships with her friends, and it follows her falling in love. I love this book. Another favorite of mine is The Book Thief, and I got this one for $1 too. Now, I am on the hunt for the 10th anniversary edition of The Book Thief. It's so beautiful, and I really don't fully understand the cover of this. This is a World War II story about a little girl in Nazi Germany. She loses her family and she goes to live with a foster family who take her in and are wonderful people. It follows her story and how books kind of save the day for her. And this is one of my favorite books of all time. So I don't fully get the whole domino thing. I don't get why or what that has to do with this book. So I picked it up because it was $1, but I'm most definitely going to get the 10th anniversary edition one day. I'm happy to have this on my shelf. I feel like this is a reflection of my reading taste for sure. So those were all of the books that I got. I love historical fiction. I obviously seem to read a lot of World War II historical fiction. So if you have any historical fiction that you think that I should read that kind of ventures out of World War II, because I seem to have this weird theme going, can you let me know and help me out with finding some more historical fiction that's just a little bit beyond that era? Please help. Thank you. I hope this finds you well, and I will see you next time. Bye!